Like I say, I've always envisioned, having my UFC debut.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to MMA Island. I'm Zach Harkness, and today I'm joined by UFC light heavyweight and the former Cage Warriors light heavyweight champion, the Baltic Gladiator himself, Modestas Bukauskas. Hello, and welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, my man. Yeah, doing really well. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, and let's just go right into the first question. So my first question would have to be about the short notice change in your fight. Now, you were originally slated to fight Vinicius Mejia until he pulled out, leaving Andreas Michailidis to step in on short notice. What were your original thoughts on getting a short notice opponent so close to the date of the fight?
To be honest, when they first said that my opponent pulled out, obviously I was a little bit annoyed. Obviously, I'll come to find out later on that it was due to COVID and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it was sort of business as usual. I knew that being the UFC, there's going to be plenty of guys that are going to be willing to step up to the plate and fight on short notice. So at the end of the day, different body, different opponent, but I always knew it was going to be the same outcome. I've been training so hard for so long that it doesn't matter who they put in front of me, doesn't matter how tough the opponent. I'd have to go out and do the same job no matter what it would be. And obviously my skill set has grown massively since the beginning of the year. So I was pretty much ready for whoever they're going to throw at me. And it ended up being that, the opponent that I had seemed to be a much more all-rounded fighter, which for me was better because, as I say, I want to fight. I want to have these really big challenges and because when you overcome it, it definitely holds more weight. So, yeah, man, change of opponent. But like I said, I always had the same mindset, which was that it would be the same outcome.
Were you, because I know that the UFC sometimes just straight up doesn't find replacements for these fights. Were you worried at all that you weren't going to get an opponent?
Oh, no, I knew 100%. Like I said, because it's such, the most prominent promotion in the world, loads of guys are, sort of training or they're in shape or there's a lot of guys that are ready to go. They've had a lot of pullouts in recent times, and especially on that card as well. Like I said, due to COVID and stuff like that they've always managed to find something. And against a debutant, UFC fighter as well. I guess it was probably maybe slightly easier than the normal occasion. I know for some of the, sort of high level fighters or the ones who are ranked a bit higher, it's a bit harder to find opponents just to sort of match for the experience and stuff like that. But for me, it was always going to be a little bit easier in terms of, like I said, me being a debut UFC fighter.
Mm-hmm. So let's just hypothetically say that you don't get another short notice opponent. Do you try and stay in Fight Island to get another opponent on one of the later cards, or would you end up going back?
Well, it would have to be, up to my manager. Like I say, I've got an amazing management team. Jason House, absolutely amazing job, and everyone part of that team. They're always guiding me in the right direction. So I would be, sort of under their tutelage and under their, sort of guidance as to what I would have to do. But whatever they'll tell me that I need to do, I'll just go ahead and do it. Like I say, if the circumstance arose that, I didn't get an opponent, but they told me I could get on a later card, then, of course, I would still stay out there and stay ready and stay in shape. Because like you say, when preparation meets opportunity, as Conor McGregor says, it's a beautiful thing. So at the end of the day, just being ready is part of the game, part of being patient and, trying to improve your skill set. So, yeah, like I say, whatever situation would arise, I would always adapt and overcome.
Nice. Now, stylistically, Andreas Michailidis and Vinicius Mejia are pretty stylistically different opponents. What was your game plan? Was your game plan similar for the two fighters, and how are you planning on countering the high-level jiu-jitsu of Mejia?
Well, I've been working very closely with very high-level jiu-jitsu guys myself, a lot of high-level wrestlers as well. So there was a lot of emphasis, obviously, on the defense aspect of the jiu-jitsu and getting back up to my feet and stuff like that, and even on the wrestling aspect. So, with a heavier focus on defending everything, obviously, I knew that Moreira was going to be, a very high-level jiu-jitsu guy. So I was just doing a lot of sort of anti-grappling and anti-jiu-jitsu sort of stuff. And that actually played very well with my next opponent. The only thing that was the main difference was that my, new opponent could strike well, and that actually played to my favor because I'm more of predominantly a striker in terms of most of my fights. I'd rather defend the takedown and but like I say, all those areas are sort of improving so much again that like I said, there'll be a time when I'll be going to take someone down. People don't know about that side of my game yet, and like I say, I'm quite eager to be able to show that at some point. But yeah, so that was the main difference, was that my opponent could actually strike better. His wrestling was probably a bit more technically sound than Moreira's, but obviously on the ground, I knew that both guys would be very dangerous. So it's just a lot of anti-grappling. So luckily, it just made me better at being able to defend everything. Should it have went into the grappling exchange, which it, towards the end of the round, it did.
So when you say that Mikhail could strike, actually, it seems like you weren't really worried about the striking game of Vinicius Mejia, which is kind of fair, showing of what he's done in the UFC so far. Hasn't had the world's best striking. So I'm just wondering, which one would you consider to be a more favorable matchup for yourself? Do you actually think you got a harder opponent on the short notice?
I mean, listen, no disrespect to Moreira, but because he is still a very high level guy and he's very big and and stuff like that. He's very good at what he does. But yes, on paper, for me, I felt that Michailidis was a much more well-rounded fighter. As in, he could strike, he can wrestle, and he's a black belt on the ground as well. So he had a much more all-rounded game, which was, which would present itself as a more difficult task to sort of solve.
Right. Now, you were one of the handful of fighters who got to compete on the UFC's heavily marketed Fight Island. They described the place as a fighter's paradise. In your time there, did you get a sense of those claims? And did you feel like the UFC treated you better than any promotion yet so far?
100%. Literally, how the UFC treats its fighters is like how you're supposed to be treated, as like a professional athlete. They make sure everything's sorted for you. They make sure your nutrition is on point. They make sure, like you've got a physio there, or, you can get sports massage. Like everything is done specific to your needs and whenever you need it. They literally try and do everything possible to make your life as easy as possible. So all you have to worry about is going out there and competing and doing your thing. They're trying to help you to perform at the highest level, and they're doing everything in their power for you to be able to do that. And to be able to get that such a venue as well, like they created all the infrastructure and they had such a beautiful venue. They had a 5-star hotel, you know what I mean? Like they literally went above and beyond to make it, like you say, a paradise for the fighters, just so that they're in the best spirits in order to go out and compete and show the world what us UFC athletes are made of. Even in the changing rooms and like leading up to the fight, everything was explained very clearly. Even walking us out into the cage and how the officials handled it, how the medical team handled it, everything was done to the highest degree. And you can't really ask for anything better. I'm not even sure if any promotion goes to those sort of lengths to take care of their fighters. So I'm very happy and grateful that I'm part of this whole thing.
Yeah, and we're all happy to have you in the UFC now. And what are some of the highlights that you experienced on Fight Island? Because I know there's just so many things in place just to make the fighters have their best possible experience. I'm wondering for you, what you found like the best part of Fight
Island. To be honest, just the environment, like everything. Like I said, you're in a 5-star hotel, like room service. You call them up, you can get literally whatever you need. All the stuff that they had in place, like I say, with the guys from the PI and like everything. Like honestly, I can't exactly pinpoint to you what was like sort of the best thing that they had, because everything was absolutely superb and amazing, and like I said, done to the highest degree. So there's absolutely no complaints with anything. And if anything, it was just nice to fight, like I say, in your own like specific venue. Like it was almost a bit like a ghost town though, like when you go from the coach from the hotel to the arena. And but yeah, like everything even in the arena, like I say, was all built specifically for the UFC. And it was absolutely amazing. They had like in the rooms they had matted areas, they had like portable saunas. So literally everything was an experience, and I loved every single bit of it.
Did you get to use the octagon on the beach?
Oh yes, that was another thing that was pretty cool actually. I mean, listen, come on, just for aesthetics and putting it on the gram and stuff like that, it had to be done to get a picture out in the cage on the beach. One thing that I didn't realize is, I mean, obviously there was a bit of speculation, how are people going to fight on the cage on the beach and stuff like that, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to make us fight on 40 degrees out in a cage outdoors, you know what I mean? Even though the thought of it was quite a nice thing. But yeah, like it was literally just like wood and a mat placed over it, not like even like a proper canvas or anything like that, or like a matted area. It was just literally just for show. But it was absolutely amazing just being in that cage and, you know, even just moving around a little bit and stuff like that. But it was in such a like I say, an amazing spot right on the beach. You could just go jump into the sea, you know, like, which is right next to it. So yeah, man, I think that was like a very cool, like, sort of niche sort of thing that they added on there, which just added to the whole aura of the whole Fight Island, you know, sort of experience.
Damn, Dana said it was a real octagon, not just a thing over wood. That's disappointing. So
Yeah.
I want to get into the fight itself. In the fight early, you showed how light on your feet that you were, especially for someone your size. How often do you train your movement and footwork, and do you think that your elite cage movement has helped you propel to where you are in MMA right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've had different sort of, I've had to adapt to different opponents and you know, stuff in my previous fights. I had to be a little bit more heavy footed just because I wanted to do certain things and to be able to land certain strikes and you know, stuff like that. And in this fight, I had to move around a lot because this guy was, like I say, a guy that's trying to take you down, or a guy that's got, you know, quite a, you know, dangerous striking such as my own. You have to be able to move around so they can't really time anything. And what I noticed is he wasn't able to time really the takedowns too well just because of the movement. And you know, landing strikes and stuff like that makes it way more difficult. So, you know, I've only just sort of implemented moving around that much in this particular fight, when it may happen in some other fights as well. But sometimes, you know, you're gonna have to sort of bite down your mouthpiece and get in a little bit more. So there's, you know, it's part of the style that I used to incorporate a lot more. But obviously, you know, in a big cage, and like I say, with my knees sort of not being 100%, I had to do something to sort of make sure that I was getting out of the way of trouble and getting out of the way of danger, but still trying to land my own particular strikes also. So, you know, you may see a bit of a mix of both of the things that I've done before, a bit of a mix of staying a bit more heavier footed in the striking exchanges, but also moving around a lot. Again, it just completely depends on what opponent I'm fighting. But like I say, every way that I'm going to fight is going to be able to adapt to any particular opponent.
So in the fight, like at the end of the first round, I mean, obviously before you KO'd him, he was getting kind of tired because, you know, he was missing a lot because of your movement. But I can assume moving around all that much and like bouncing back and forth makes you tired as well. Is that not the case? Can you just do that and not get tired?
Yeah, well, to be honest, mate, I was training to, you know, fighting for the Cage Warriors title. I was trained to go 5-5-minute rounds. You know, when I Shark Tanks, I was doing, again, 5-5-minute rounds and stuff like that. So my cardio has always been sort of one of the things in my game which I've not really had to worry about too much. And even in the fight, even though there was a lot of movement, I was always able to catch my breath and, you know, sort of ready to land even more strikes and stuff like that. I was ready to sort of keep going. You know what I mean? I've been training it in, like I say, in the practice room and stuff like that. So it wasn't necessarily me using up that much energy because it's just like, sort of felt like very natural movements. But yeah, like I say, if it would have went into, like, you know, sort of second and third round, I would have been absolutely fine. I had the gas tank to be able to put on the same sort of pace, and, you know, had my opponent worn down a little bit more, it definitely would have played into my favor.
Now, on commentary broadcasts, I've heard in the past where champions from other organizations come over to the UFC and they commentators say like, oh yeah, they're happy to be in the 3-round fight again. It's like a sparring session for them. Is that the case for you? Are you happy to be back in the 3-round fight?
Oh yeah, like, you know, when you don't have to do so many rounds when you're doing stuff on the pads or you're doing Shark Tanks, you can sort of to tie it down a little bit. Obviously, it feels way better in terms of just, you know, just there's this massive strain on the body training for 5 rounds, and, you know, having to keep up a pace as well. Like, you know, sometimes you're thinking, bloody, I've just done 3 now, I've got to do another 2 and stuff like that. So yeah, it is quite a nice feeling, but at the same time, I'm going to be ready to be able to go for those 5 rounds because, of course, I want to be fighting for a title in the future. So you know, like I say, the better cardio you have, you know, the more you'll be able to sort of do in those earlier rounds anyway. So, but yeah, I do definitely 100% agree that is a nice little bit of a transition just because it means that I can put more output and, yeah, it feels like the round goes much, much faster, or the fight would go much, much faster.
And do you think your experience having 5-round fights outside of the UFC is going to give you an advantage over people in the UFC who hasn't? Do you think you can make people gas out before you?
Oh, 100%, 100%, my man. Like, I think, having already two of those, one where I actually went 4 rounds, and one of them, obviously, I finished in the first one. But the type of training that I did, obviously, leading up to all those fights, getting ready for 5 rounds, and being able to have that is definitely helped in my career right now. Right now, it's going to be a case of just upping the pace for those first 3 rounds, anyways. So, and then, when it comes back to doing 5 rounds, and we'll do exactly the same, but obviously I'm going to be on 3 rounds for quite a while until it gets to sort of title contention and stuff like that. So, but I'm, like I say, it's good because now you just have to change things up. You have to do things slightly differently just to make it very specific to what the rounds that you're going to do in the fight. So now everything's going to be more specific to 3 rounds. It's probably going to be a little bit more intense in terms of how much shots I'm going to be landing, but at the same time, it's just going to make for even more entertaining fights for the fans.
Yeah. Now, one thing that Mikhail established early were the body kicks and the leg kicks. That seemed to be most of his offense. Yet you seemed unbothered each time one would land. How effective were the kicks that Mikhail were throwing? And building off that, our leg kicks are they as effective as they seem to be over the TV? Because they talk about how effective leg kicks are. And someone who's been leg kicked before, you can answer this question pretty well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can give you another example. My pro debut, I fought a guy who on paper was supposed to literally wipe the floor with me, and I ended up going 3 rounds and winning that. That was the only fight that went to decision, but I won my professional debut. But I literally got leg kicked. I don't know how many times, but how bad my leg looked was how bad the guy's face looked. Like, literally, it would look like an absolute watermelon, and then that guy's face was like, whelps and bruises and all sorts. So they are very effective because obviously it stops your movement, and like in between rounds when you sort of have a little bit of time to take a little bit of breather, and you've got a bit of, you put the ice on it. Obviously it will stun your movement for at least a good couple of like maybe 10-20 seconds until you get your movement and range again. So they are very effective. But I had, like I say, I had swelling on my left knee leading into the fight. So I knew my opponent could see that. And listen, by all means, that's what you got to do in the fight game. I'm pretty sure if he had swelling on his knee, I would target that also. So, it had a bit more of a sting just because obviously I had that beforehand. But at the end of the day, like you go in there and you fight, I still had the movement to take away a little bit of the venom from the shots. So, and like I said, that'll be something that I'll still work on in future fights also.
And now, as someone who's been known to gas out, Mikhail, I was surprised that he didn't take more of a head-hunting approach. Now, he did throw a couple headshots, but mostly it was those body kicks and leg kicks, and yet he still seemed to gas out at the end of the first round. Were you kind of surprised that he was taking that game plan instead of going for a head-hunting game plan?
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously, like I said, I was moving around quite a lot. When we got into those little exchanges, we both landed our particular shots and stuff like that. And, he's still got a couple that were sort of in the pocket and stuff like that. Yeah, I did expect him to go head hunting a little bit more. But like I said, I think my movement sort of maybe threw him off a little bit. But like I say, he was obviously effective in what he was doing and what his game plan was. So, yeah, I just think it's probably more that I just didn't give him a chance to do that. Just because of the movement, because I saw one fight he had against another Russian, and that guy moved as well, and it was sort of the same story. So, yeah, man, like I say, I think the movement is what maybe might have threw him off a little bit.
Now, in the final 10 seconds of the fight and in the first round, Mikhail shot for a takedown, but ended up having you against the fence, and he got finished by vicious elbows. Now, this finish is almost identical to the fight right before this one in your title fence against Ricardo Nosiglia. When you were elbowing Mikhailidis, was that finish, which took place literally your last fight, in your head as you were doing it?
Well, to be honest, I was thinking about the takedown defense initially because in my head I was thinking, okay, well, we're going to be able to go into the second round now, feeling strong, feeling like I could, sort of close the range a little bit and get more of my more dangerous shots out of there and start kicking a bit more. So I was already sort of ready for the second round. I had the underhook. I had a good overhook as well with the other arm. I was ready to stop that takedown, just a normal, like, how anyone would stop a takedown against a cage. But then all I did was heard my dad again, just like I did in the Nasilia fight, and he goes elbows, elbows, elbows. At that point, I really did not know how long was left on the clock. I knew that, it was probably like nearing the end of the round. But then as soon as I saw the space, I saw the exact spot where it was, and that his head was literally wide open right there. I'm like, well, I've been in this position before, so it was almost like second nature. And like me and my dad have been drilling it as well and stuff like that. So it just, like I say, it became a very sort of second nature thing where I literally just saw the spot and just went in on it until the round ended or until the referee would stop it.
Yeah, in the fight, I noticed that like when you were elbowing him, I was like, wait, he's going to get finished because you were throwing those shots really, really hard and his head was wide open. How hard were you throwing those elbows, and did you think you were going to get the finish there?
I was going for the knockout. Obviously, like I say, the bell ended up going, and I thought that Mikhail would actually be able to continue. I thought, I'll walk back to my corner. I'm getting ready for the second round. He's a little bit dazed, so I'm going to go and really put it on him in the second round. But then I saw the referee asked him to stand up about 4 or 5 times, and he literally did not. He was not responding whatsoever. So at that point, I'm like, they're probably going to stop the fight because the guy literally was not standing up. So when I went, back to my corner and saw that he was like very dazed and couldn't stand back up, then I knew at that point that it was probably pretty painful, the strikes that I landed.
Yeah, and one weird thing coming out of that finish is all the people saying that those elbows were to the back of the head, even though they replayed it on the broadcast like 4 or 5 times, that pretty much none of those elbows hit the back of his head. Were you surprised that people were kind of trying to find controversy in this finish?
Yeah, I've had a load of different things that have been said, and listen, obviously, I know a lot of people are going to be salty towards that victory, and try and find any excuse or reason, for it to sort of discredit it, which is understandable. At the end of the day, you're gonna have people hating, and you're gonna have people liking it at the same time. I've got my supporters, and I've got my people who are completely against it. I found it weird that a lot of the UFC fighters actually were against that finish, and I'm like, well, it just doesn't get used that much. Do you know what I mean? Just because we don't see it often doesn't mean it's not effective or it's illegal as such. So, yeah, I've had those people say those things, but again, I don't pay attention to it. Like I know that those shots were clean. That's the thing. Like if I literally felt guilty that, oh my God, maybe those shots weren't as clean, then I would have definitely have said something. But the fact that I landed those shots and I knew that they're hitting the right place, I had nothing to be worried about at all. I knew that they all, like I say, they all landed clean. They wouldn't have given me the 50,000 bonus if they didn't land in the right spot. Do you know what I mean? And then they started saying that, oh yeah, they only stopped the fight because he fell on the door open and he fell out the cage. I'm like, okay, well, what about Daniel Movahoudi done an amazing job. And I'm like, what about him asking the opponent to stand up 4 or 5 times and he didn't respond? Maybe that's a bit more of an indication that, that they shouldn't, let it go on in the second round, as opposed to, oh, he fell through the cage and that's what caused him to end the fight. So, like I said, I've had a bit of controversy here and there. And at the end of the day, listen, people are talking about it. Doesn't matter whether it's controversial, this or that. People are talking about that finish, whether good or bad. That is good publicity for me. That means when I come into my next fight, people are going to be talking about it. People are going to want to see me fight, whether they want to see me lose or win. Either way, I've got people talking, and at the end of the day, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a very good thing. Now, when you were in the cage, were you worried, like at the start, that the referee might not have seen it that way? Because there have been some questionable calls in the past, not by him, just by referees in general, that it would have been called a no contest or something. Or were you 100% sure that the right decision would be made and you would get the win?
Well, this is it. I knew those shots that I had landed were legal. This is the thing. If I had any doubt, then I'd literally be sitting there like thinking, damn, like he might call it the wrong way. But I knew that the shots landed clean. This is the thing. When you're 100% certain that the shots landed clean, there's no way that I could have seen him, in my head especially, there was no way that I saw that the referee was going to call it any other way. So for me, I had no worries whatsoever. I mean, maybe other people had worries, but I had absolutely no worries because, like I said, I knew I landed those shots clean.
Yeah, and I mean, the mark on the side of his head should have told the whole story, in my opinion. Now, obviously, the ending of the fight, while not controversial, was unconventional to say the least. The fight was stopped between the first and second, and when you went back to your corner after the first, did you think that there was a possibility of that fight being stopped, like in between rounds?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, when he couldn't stand up, and he was completely dazed. And even when he went onto the stool after they had called the fight off, he was still like very shaky and wobbly. So I already knew the fact that he can't go to his corner and there's only 1 minute of rest time in between the rounds. I knew that they're probably going to stop it. Like I said, just the fact that he wasn't responding to the referee. If he was responding to the referee and he was standing up, then I'll be like, okay, maybe we should just get ready for the second round. But the fact that he wasn't getting up was an indication of how hurt he was.
Yeah. Now, when he fell through the cage door, I mean, that was just a crazy moment in general. Were you watching like when it happened? Like watch him fell through the cage door?
I didn't. Like I said, I don't think I was really paying attention. I was getting ready to go for the second round. I saw my dad walk in with the stool, getting ready for us to get ready for the second round. And then as soon as that happened, as soon as my dad even, walked in with the stool, he goes, fights off, fights off. And then at that point, that's when I, had a bit of a scream of a sigh of relief. I was like, okay, wicked. We got it done now, as opposed to, because I was getting ready to go and try and finish it in the second round. So the fact that it just got finished there and then, I was like, okay, this is good. Like, do you know what I mean? I got to finish it a little bit earlier. Didn't have to take too much damage to my knee and stuff like that. So yeah, man.
Yeah, it kind of worked out best possible situation, I guess. Now, one of the biggest, like, not really arguments, but kind of debates about that is when he fell back through the cage door, was it because, he was rocked and just still woozy, or if like he was leaning up against the door and he fell backwards? Now, I've heard both opinions said, and obviously he was still rocked because he couldn't respond to the referee, but which one do you think it is? What do you think happened?
Well, listen, he may have been trying to lean on the cage to sort of regather himself, but why do you need to lean on the cage? The referee asked you to stand up and you're not standing up. Why do you feel the need to listen? Even if the cage door was closed and he was just leaning on the cage, the referee would have stopped it because he did not get up. This is the main point I got to say, is that yeah, he fell back and whatever, and then the referee stopped it because he's trying to lean on the cage, but he would have leant on the cage and still not stood up. So at the end of the day, he's not in his corner. He's not ready to go and fight. And like I said, the referee would probably ask him again, are you ready? And he still would have said he wasn't, because he was still dazed and confused at that point. It took him a while to actually be able to stand up afterwards. So, at the end of the day, I think he was probably still dazed already, but had he even leant on the cage, he would still not have been able to stand up. And even if he did stand up, he would have been shaken all over the place. The referee would have had to stop it no matter what.
Exactly. And the fact that he didn't even contend the stoppage whatsoever is just, I think everyone who thinks that stoppage was wrong, just that's what they need to know, that he didn't contend it. He thinks it was right. But okay, so I think this seems like an obvious question, but it has to be asked. You made your UFC debut, a former Cage Warriors champion. You come in and score a bonus winning finish. The UFC is almost certainly going to give you a big opportunity at your next bout. So who are some of the names that you've been wanting to fight for your next bout, and when can we see you again?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm hoping to get on the next Fight Island. Once this knee heals up, another week of rest, good quality rest and recovery, and then I'll be back into training next week. So I'll be ready to fight in September. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, whatever the UFC has for me, whenever my manager says, that they'll give me a fight, I'm ready to go. Next Fight Island, I'll be ready to go once again and ready to go and put on an even more impressive performance. And this time, not go into a fight, I'm not making an excuse or anything, but I'm not going to go into a fight with a bad knee or anything like that. I'm going to make sure I'm 100% ready to go out and be even better. I'm just going to put on an even better showing. If people thought that was good showing, I'm going to make sure it's an even better performance. And listen, obviously, my previous opponent that I had booked, obviously I had that fight booked, so I would like to still rebook that once again if that's something that they'll look into. But also, I saw Roman Dolidze had a very good opening debut as well. Listen, he's an entertaining fighter. He's undefeated, and we're both on our way up. We both won our debuts, so it'd be nice to sort of fight another guy who's also had a good debut. I think it'll create a lot of noise, a lot of attention, and it'll be a very interesting fight for the fans. And yeah, like I say, I think that would be a very interesting matchup, and I would love to have that fight. So, those are the sort of things that stick out in mind. But at the end of the day, it's about me working my way up the ladder and working my way up to the title contention. So however that road may go, my manager's going to lead me in the right direction. I'll just keep picking them off one by one. I'm trying to work my way up the ranks, and that's all I'm trying to do. So, like I said, September, that is when I'll be looking to fight once again.
That Roman Delige fight, if it happens, would be insane. Now, the one thing about Roman Delige, though, is his troubles with USADA in the past. And even though he's clean now, are you okay with fighting someone who's had all those PED issues in the past?
100%, man. Like I said, I mean, and he's clean now. This is another thing. You know, it doesn't matter what happened in the past or whatever. Listen, he's passed all his tests now. That means he's absolutely good to go. There's going to be no problems. And yeah, man. Like, look, at the end of the day, you're in a fight. You know, this is like, you know, like this is like going out for like survival. This is a completely different sort of mode. Like, you know, when you're lifting weights and stuff like that, and like, you know, that's what it's going to help. But in a fight, it's completely different. You can use the person's power. You can land those strikes and stuff like that. So look, at the end of the day, I want to fight. I want to fight, you know, the toughest guys. I want to prove myself out on, you know, out on the biggest stage in the world. So, you know, like I say, I'm always looking for big challenges. I know that would be a challenge for me, and I would love to see that come to fruition.
How do you see that fight going between you two?
Listen, I'm always going for the finish. So I do obviously always envision a finish. I always feel like my striking is second to none. I know all these guys are very good grapplers, but listen, I'm always going to have something different to surprise them and have something to overcome them. So I definitely feel like I would finish the fight. I'm going to finish. I'm not going just to, you know, go in there and win rounds. I'm going in there to finish. And that is what I believe every single time is going to happen, that I will go and finish the fight.
Nice. Now, I want to go back to your Cage Warriors days for this question, and I want to ask about the Marcin Wojciech fight. This is one of the fights I actually watched for tape study on you. Now, during the fight, he kept on taking you down until you knocked him out in the second. Were you getting frustrated at all the takedowns he was landing because you kept on getting back up? And did you see that win as the comeback, as many people described it as?
Yeah, it was definitely a comeback. I was definitely, as you can see, losing the first 2 rounds just because of all the takedowns. But like I said, I've been working extensively on being able to get back up to my feet and just to be calm in those situations. Like, a lot of people, like, they get overly stiff and overly stressed in those positions, thinking, damn, I'm in a bad spot, and they waste their energy. For me, it was just, I was relaxing down there. I was getting ready, just okay, I got taken down. I'm getting back up to my feet. I've got the cage right here. I'm going to scoot back. And then he was just slowly gassing out more and more and more, where he's more predominantly a striker. He chose to go on the wrestling aspect. And yeah, he's got good wrestling. He's got good cage wrestling and stuff like that. But I've been working on the defenses and stuff like that. And even my get-ups, like, everything has been done specifically. Like, in my corner, they said specifically to me, they said, listen, if he takes you down, doesn't matter. You're going to get straight back up to your feet. Literally, that is all they were saying. They said, don't worry if he takes you down. You're going to get back up to your feet. And I knew that I'll be able to land my shots and he would wear down. And that's exactly what happened. And in the second round, it was literally all instinct. Knee to the head, punches landed, kick, and then spinning back again. I knew that it would be very tender in that area, right up against the cage where there's nowhere to go, especially with him being tired. So, yeah, that's what eventually led to the finish. So, mate, like I said, I'm always looking for the finish. And I knew that I had to pull something out of the bag. But already at the end of the first round, I'm like, I've got him. Like, so, you know, even though I was losing that fight, it never faltered my confidence to go and beat that guy.
Yeah, because do you think he could have held that pace for the entire fight? Because he already said he was starting to tire, and those takedowns, you're just getting back up and back up and back up. So do you see any way where, like, he keeps on that pace going for 3 rounds and he just keeps on taking you down? Or is that not a possibility?
It's very hard to do that. I mean, listen, if you keep taking a guy down and you're actually putting a hell of a lot of effort. I mean, listen, I'm a heavy guy. I mean, both of us are heavy guys. When you're trying to lift 100 kilo up in the air, it's never an easy task. So, you know, trying to lift me up and then get like, if you've ever tried lifting someone, putting them back down, lifting it, and like doing it constantly, consistently, and like you're trying to hold them down, it wears you out. There is no way someone could be able to do that for 3 rounds. And like, I mean, listen, if you're a very good wrestler and you're very good at your craft, you might be able to do that. But again, if the guy keeps getting back up to his feet and what you're doing isn't landing much damage, then that's going to be more wearing on you as opposed to the guy who's defending it. Obviously, if there's strikes being landed and stuff like that, it'll be a bit of a different ball game. But yeah, man, like I say, even if it would go like, you know, 3 rounds and stuff like that, then I would have to just sort of turn up the pace with my striking and then start landing more stuff. So again, you just have to adapt. Every situation that occurs, you just got to be able to find sort of the jigsaw, that missing piece, and fill it in the spot, and then go and do it. Like I say, it means that I then have to go for a finish more, and that's what makes me, you know, sort of look for it more in fights.
Yeah, that's a very good mindset to have going into fights. Now, you only have 2 losses in your entire career, and they came back to back. Now, ever since then, you finished 7 straight opponents. This means that you must have learned something from the losses. So, what do you think led you to go on that negative streak, and what changes did you make to your game that led you to go on the 7-fight finish streak that you're on now?
Yeah, one big thing was obviously I was in the wrong weight class. Making middleweight is completely horrendous. Even though people said, I've got sort of a build more for middleweight, I would literally have to chop an arm off. I feel way more strong, way more, confident, at light heavyweight. So that was one big factor. I was cutting way too much weight and going on binges, and it just wasn't good for me body wise. One thing that I think was mainly mentally though. So I changed my nutrition. I was overtrained. I was way overtrained. Like guys think, oh yeah, going to the gym as much as possible, and this and that. But you can't really do that. You need to make sure you're having good quality sessions. You need to get the most out of it, as opposed to I'm just going to try and kill myself every single day. And you're not really getting much out of it. Now I'm starting to learn more. I'm starting to think more about the movements that I'm doing, as opposed, because I'm doing the sessions necessary. And if I need to take a rest, I'm not scared to take a rest, because I know it's what my body needs to be able to perform at the highest level. It's all about performance. You need to perform at the highest level, not just show up. You've got to be able to perform. So that's what I'm trying to do every single training session, is I'm wanting to go out there and perform. So that was another thing, obviously, that we changed up: nutrition and the sort of the training. Added strength and conditioning. That was another big thing that we added. My dad took over everything, and it's helped me leaps and bounds, which also helped with the leveling up in the weight as well, going to light heavyweight. Doing all that stuff. Definitely the strength and conditioning helped me to make that transition a little bit more seamless. And so I was sparring with heavyweights anyways the whole time. And it was, the main thing was mentally. I just need to go out there and think I want to, I'm going to go out there to kill. I'm going out there to completely hurt my opponent. I'm not there just to go out and win. I had too much of a sportsman mindset where I'm just like, I just want to win and that's it. Nah, he's go in there and hurt the guy, otherwise he's going to do the same back to you. One thing that brought that animalistic side out of me was the boxing sparring. In London, we've got some very high level boxers, and, I got to spar some top guys, and, it really put me through my paces. And finally, as I started learning, getting into those exchanges and stuff like that, it made me more confident. It just made me more aggressive. You go in there, those guys are trying to take your head off and knock you out. So, at the end of the day, you have to do it back to them, otherwise they're going to do it to you. So bringing out that mindset, that ferociousness that I needed, was definitely another big factor that's helping me in fights now as well. And I think that's what also makes me want to go for the finish more in fights.
So you're undefeated at light heavyweight right now?
Yeah.
So how much weight do you have to cut to get down to 205 compared to how much weight you would have to cut to 185?
Well, to be honest, I didn't have to cut no water to make light heavyweight this time around. I don't know if it was the heat or whatever, but I weighed in at 205, but I woke up that morning at 206.7, so I had to cut no water whatsoever by the time I got to weigh-ins. Listen, I would have to cut water from about 15 pounds of water, whereas now the most I'd ever cut in water would probably be about 10, maybe less than that. Maybe like 8 pounds really of water, where before it was like 15 to 15, close to 20 pounds of water for middleweight. It's just absolutely horrendous. I completely drained my body, and obviously the rehydration I'd done was still quite good, but nowhere near as good as it is now. And now I've followed all the correct protocols and stuff like that. So light heavyweight is just a much easier cut for me, and I feel lean, I feel powerful, I feel strong. Like I said, I've been sparring with heavyweights for most of my career, so it felt like completely no different to transition to that.
Right. Now, I want to go all the way back to the beginning. How did you find yourself getting into MMA and starting to train?
Well, basically, so my dad was a Soviet Union no-holds-barred heavyweight champion back in the day. So this was back before MMA was sort of a thing. And, he got his black belt in karate. He's done his sambo, he trained with the armed forces and stuff like that. So he sort of developed his own art. And then, at about the age of 5, he started sort of just getting me into it and just showing me a couple of moves. It's just like, oh yeah, here we go. This is quite cool and this, that. And I got quite interested. And it was like, like I say, when you're a kid, anything you find that's, a bit intricate, you find it quite cool and interesting. So, but yeah, then a couple of weeks later, things got very serious very quickly. It was less of, oh yeah, let's look at this cool move. And it's more like, we must train now. And, and then stuff like that, like vivid memories of me, being, indoors, waiting for my dad to come back home, seeing all the kids playing outside. But yeah, I've got to do a 2-hour training session with my dad and my sister. So, it was tough times and stuff like that. But I'm so grateful and thankful for all of that, because it made me disciplined, it made me determined, it made me, it gave me so many good attributes. And, I won 4 British kickboxing titles as well. So at the end of the day, it just made me competitive. It gave me the skill set. I mean, listen, I was learning, MMA type stuff before most people knew it. And, that's what makes it so easy now for me to pick up techniques now, is because I had that, ingrained in me since a very young age. So I've got to thank my dad. He's been an amazing, person, and he's been a very influential person in my life. And like I said, that's what makes me who I am today. And because of all of this training, it's who makes me who I am. So I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful.
Now, everyone seems to mention like times in their early career and starting to train when they start having this friction where they have moments which make them not sure that this is what they want to do. Did you experience any moment like that?
Yeah. I had a bit of a break away from martial arts from about 11, trying to, I'll say I stopped training it properly from about 11 years old. I sort of just did it here and there. And even then, I still won my last British kickboxing title when I was 14, even not training for it properly. I took time away because, my mum sort of encouraged me to try other sports. And I did, obviously you're training with it specifically and so hard from such a young age, you sort of just want to branch out and do something a little bit different. So I tried playing tennis, then I played basketball, and then basketball seemed to be something that I had a bit more of a talent for. So I ended up actually going to America for 2 years in Louisiana from 16 to 18, trying to live the basketball dream and trying to make it to Division I and stuff like that. And although it didn't go my way, I actually played American football out there as well. And although, getting the scholarship didn't go my way and stuff like that, it gave me much needed experience, like life experience, and like the strength and conditioning is like second to none. You lot have got it good over there. Like it's absolutely insane. I learned how to clean and press properly. I see guys who are like, 17 years old, power cleaning 225 pounds. I'm like, how is this even possible? My bench max when I first went out there was like 185 pounds, and then by the time I left it was like 255. So it was mad. But I learned a hell of a lot. So I took a break, but that was a much needed break, because then when I had the conversation with my dad about what I was going to do, am I going to go to college or am I going to come home and do martial arts, it was almost an easy conversation. I'm like, well, this is my last chance to become a professional athlete and to compete at the highest level and compete at the pinnacle. So I'm going to take it on full swing. And, like I said, it was very easy for me then just to go home, and then my dad had it all set up ready there for me. So, yeah, man, I feel like it was a much needed break mentally, because it just gave me that added fire to come back and just train and really, really put my heart and soul into it. And I think the fact that I put my heart and soul into my other sports just mean that, again, that also transferred over to that when I became more mature in my mind to be able to do it for MMA.
Right. Now that's a very good story. Now, it was mentioned on the broadcast that you trained with Jon Jones at Jackson Wink for a time in your career. What was it like to train with him, and what are some of the biggest things you took away from training with Jon Jones?
He's an absolutely amazing fella. Like I say, he's very different to what sometimes the media portrayed him, doing all these things and blah, blah. He's one of the nicest guys I've met in my life. He's really welcoming. Like, he sees potential in you. He will tell you about it. He lifts you up when you're down. Like, he tries to improve his own skill set and tries to improve your skill set. He gives valuable advice. Like, he's a proper team player. And obviously it was amazing being able to spar with him and train with him for 10 weeks, literally just being his sparring partner, like training every single day with him. It just gave me that gave me more motivation and inspiration to go and try and achieve all this stuff myself, seeing him, basically being at the top of his game, in his peak. And, for me to compete against a guy like that, even just in the training room and stuff like that, it was, for me, it shows me that I'm meant to be fighting at the highest level. All I've got to do is, it's within me. I just got to let it all out. So, mate, just the conversations we had, the training sessions we had, it was invaluable. It's like, it was the best sort of experiences I could have, because like I said, this is the GOAT, the number one fighter in the world, and to have a valuable insight from him, and like I said, to be training with him like every single day, and him looking to you to have sparring and this and that, like it just meant so much to me. And he's been my idol for ages. So like I say, that experience is what gave me the more confidence to go out. And even after the 2 losses that I had, it gave me the confidence. And from what my dad was saying as well, that I will be a champion one day. You just got to go through this adversity, and then just keep rising, keep training, keep doing your thing, and then eventually I'll be the one who's going to be on top someday.
When you were sparring with him, could you tell that, this is the greatest fighter in the world?
Oh, 100%. He's levels above everyone else. The stuff that he does, he's very tricky with everything that he does. And like I said, especially in the wrestling aspect, he's like a 10 times better wrestler than I've ever faced, really. And that's what makes him so good. He's just his fight IQ is insane. So, yeah, man. But like I said, that's why I was so happy to be able to get all those rounds in, because, like I said, that experience, you can never take that away. And it was absolutely amazing.
Now, your training camp, as you mentioned earlier, is run by your father. What advantages do you think having your father being your coach gives you?
Number one, the relationship that we have. We get on so well. I mean, listen, we live in the same household, but I can literally just go downstairs, tell Dad, okay, we're going to plan our day out. We train at this time, this and that. It's literally just so easy. He knows me very well. So not just the fact that we're best friends, we get on like so well. He understands me as a fighter. He's always working on stuff specifically for me. So he's taken over my strength and conditioning as well, which like literally is stuff that no one else is doing. 100%. This is why when people grapple with me and stuff like damn, this guy's strong, or damn, this guy moves a little bit different, or he's more athletic than what we've seen. It's because of all the training that I've done with him. And like I said, he gives me insight that no one else knows, stuff that that he was using in his fights that people don't use nowadays, but the old school is it's really effective. And he gets on really well with all my coaches as well, and they gel really well. So the bond that we all have together, like everyone's on the same page. So realistically, I couldn't ask for having a better head coach. Like the fact that he organizes all my training and stuff like that, and it just shows that he really cares and looks after me. He always has a book there ready with all the new techniques that he wants to do. And so yeah, man, everything gels really well.
Well, that's awesome. And unfortunately, I think that's all the questions I have for today. I really want to thank you for joining me today. Is there anything you want to say to the people out there?
I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for the massive amount of love and support that I've been getting. Shout out to everyone in Lithuania as well, like, my home country. I want to make all these guys proud. I want to make Britain proud as well, because, obviously I've been living there for most of my life as well. So, I'm repping both flags as I'm stepping into the cage. And there's been a lot of people behind the scenes that have been helping me out massively that I can't thank enough. And those people know who they are. But listen, we're doing this all together. When we go and rise up and, I start, we get racking up these wins. Like I say, this is all because of the massive team effort from everyone around who's been around me and helping me and, being very close to me. And I can't explain how much gratitude it is. But the way I'm going to show the gratitude is going to go out and put on amazing performances, go and smash all my opponents and work my way to the top and bring everyone with me to the top. And we're all going to all succeed together. So, yeah, I just can't wait to keep on putting in spectacular performances. And, like I say, you ain't seen nothing yet. Every fight, I'm only going to get better. And I can't wait to show that to everyone.
And we can't wait to see it. Again, I would like to thank the Baltic Gladiator, Modestas Bukauskas, for joining me today. And I would like to thank you, the viewer, for watching this interview. I've been Zach Harkness with MMA Island, and I will see you all in the next one.